Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Ducks Gaming and the next installment of 24 Hours in POE, where I'm taking Blazing Salvo in SSF as far as I can once you hit maps, and I've basically got 24 hours to do it. So this episode covers hours 12 to 17. If you watch the last episode, you know I'm just starting to tackle tier 11 corrupted maps at the 12-hour mark, and this episode, there is quite a lot to cover. The build in general feels okay. I'm still progressing levels, but very slowly. As a character is quite slow through the map, so clear can be a bit janky, and it's really, really easy to get overwhelmed by mobs, especially in influence maps. There's lots of things to go through, as I say, in this episode. I'll firstly mention the things that I've been struggling with in this episode. The firstly is a shortage of Varlorbs. I have spent at least 2 hours this episode either farming Heist, Delve, even putting Sacrifice Fragments into the map device to try and get Varlorbs, because I have not seen Tusion or Danig once in my playthrough. So I've not really got any way to guarantee these sort of currencies, and I haven't been doing lakes. I've also got a real issue with map sustain. I've taken every single map node on the tree that I can get to. I've been obviously alching and corrupting my maps, and I've just not had any maps drop to help me progress. So it's been super, super slow. Probably 2 hours ago I would have been ready to take on this content, but I just couldn't get T16 maps to drop. Didn't have the Chaos Orbs to buy them from vendors. And obviously it doesn't count when you do them as Atlas missions, because you can't put influence on them. Along with that, I've also had a bit of an alch shortage as well. Again, just not really any way to target farm these with the content that I'm doing. I'm doing Metamorph, which has dropped very, very little, even when the map is quite juiced. Harvest obviously isn't going to drop currency, and Essences isn't going to drop currency. So in regards to the content, I have completed quite a few corrupted T14 to T16 maps, and the Atlas completion is getting there. I have bricked a few as well, and they've mostly come from me clicking too many altars and just not really looking what it's doing, because I'm not used to playing a spellcaster that does fire damage, and I've just made the map too difficult a lot of the time. In terms of notable content, I had a Guardian map offered to me by Kirak, so I did that, which was Hydra. I've done Eater of Worlds, and I've done Seer and Exarch, so I've now got the first 2 voidstones. So I thought I'd go over a few things that I've noticed and maybe wouldn't do again if I had the time to start over, and then just go through how I felt the experience was with Eater of Worlds and Seer and Exarch. So the first thing to mention is I'm really, really regretting my Atlas choices. Metamorph has yielded very little. I have had some Catalyst, but not a great deal. Even when the maps are juiced, they're super, super hard to kill. They can take like 2 to 3 minutes to kill a Metamorph. I've bricked a couple of maps, so I just haven't been able to kill them because of the combination of mods. And I think 100% should have gone Expedition over Metamorph. I also think I should have started with Heist for a few hours before I hit maps, just to get some currency. It's what I did in my trade playthrough and my SSF playthrough, because I league started SSF this league. And I had tons of Varlorbs and tons of Chaos Orbs, and I never felt like I had an issue not being able to Varl maps or not being able to roll maps. And I definitely have wasted hours in this playthrough trying to get some currency together. Secondly, I think I should have probably pathed down the tree a little bit and found a way to get Unwavering Stance into the build as stuns. If you get stunned with this build, you're basically dead, because you do get overwhelmed a lot, because it's very difficult to get a massive sort of AoE and clear with the skill. I also wish I would have put a bit more emphasis on Chaos Resistance, as maps with poison on hit are absolutely destroying me when they're combined with things like Eater Influence and maybe faster attacks. I'm getting tons and tons of poison stacks on me, and it's absolutely shredding through my regen, my life, and my energy shield. So we'll just talk about the boss fights that I've had. So with Hydra, it was okay. I think I died once, but that was my fault for just standing there. His attacks are really easy to telegraph. I don't have great DPS, but I'm fairly tanky. And for this fight, as long as I didn't get hit by his balls and his Rain of Arrows type attack, it was absolutely fine. I could just stand there and face tank it. Seer and Exarch was really easy. I don't feel like he could have killed me. I was just standing there holding attack in Frost Shield, and it was super, super slow, but I didn't feel like he would kill me. I could also tank a couple of the balls in the dodging phase, so it makes it a bit more possible to do, even if you have to do like 4 or 5 ball phases. I think I did die once because I got a bit cocky when I was dodging the balls, but overall that felt okay, that fight. Eater Worlds felt absolutely awful, because you get very little DPS time for this build on Eater, because he moves around all the time. You've also got to watch for those balls that kind of freeze you and send you to darkness. There's a couple of his attacks are quite deadly, and generally you do have to move out of the way of some of his attacks, which makes it really, really difficult. And the fight took about 5.5, 5.75 minutes, which is way too long for this sort of fight. And it was super frustrating. So it's definitely not a boss I'm going to do again. So if I do carry on with this playthrough, I'm definitely going to concentrate on the Syrian Exarch influence. So with the shortage of Varlobs, like I said, I was even resorting to going to side areas by putting sacrifice ranks in the map device. I was that desperate. I finally found Tujan after God knows how many hours. Managed to get some Varlobs from him, and then it meant I could progress a few more maps. But I know in about half an hour I'm going to be back to the same problem. I've got very little T16 maps, very little Varlobs, and very little Alchemy Orbs. So I'll just go and show you where we are in terms of progress. So we are 92 out of 132 Atlas points. In terms of completion, it's 85 out of 115. I've still got a few yellow maps to do as well. I just don't really have the currency to re-roll them. I want to save these for red maps. And at some point, when we've got all of our, or we've got our 2 voidstones in now, I'm sure Kirat's going to offer the odd yellow map that I'm missing. But like I say, with currency, we've got 8 Varlobs, 5 Chaos, 7 Orbs of Alchemy. If I hadn't have luckily found Tujan in a map, I would have still been stuck for progress. I'll just go over the gear because I've done a bit of recrafting on the character because, as I said, not having Chaos Res is absolutely killing me. So I've crafted a new ring. It's not very good, but I'm struggling a bit on essences. I've used them all, really, on my gear. So this is just life, Chaos Res with an open suffix, craft, lightning, and Chaos Resistance. I've recrafted the chest. This was really to try and fluke Chaos Res or Strength as a suffix when I'm rolling with life essences. Didn't happen. So we're stuck with the chest, but it's got decent life on it. I'm just going to see, actually, while we're here, if I've got any Syrian Exarch, because we have a mod here, which is crit multi for attacks, which does nothing. So let's just see if we can get something that's okay. That's not really any good because we can't sustain them. That's okay. It's better than nothing. And then we'll go and put something on our boots. Are pretty bad. Helmet, we've got nothing. So we'll go for helmet as well. Got nothing. And nothing. So that's the chest piece. Helmet, I don't think I've recrafted. It's just life, resistances, and strength. The amulet is the same amulet. I've anointed Path of Savant just because it was one of the only ones I could afford at the time. It gives me intelligence, which adds to my crit chance, mana, which helps, and then spell damage as well. The shield I have recrafted because I ended up with a couple of good bases drop in. And as I mentioned, to craft these shields, you just need to go over to Harvest and you're just crafting either fire, cold, or lightning, and it rolls the elemental ailments all the time. I think I need like 25% to be 100%. The reason I stopped on this, the shield isn't very good, but it's got 86 life gained when you block. Running glancing blows, I've got about 60% block chance, I think. So 58 and 70 spell damage. So whenever I block, is it attack or spells? Yeah, so whenever I block, I get 86 life, so that helps a little bit with survivability. The boots I haven't changed at all. I don't want to risk bricking these, but I really would like 30% movement speed. So if I do carry on, the idea might be to maybe try and roll elemental ailments on the Eldritch Implicit instead. But at the moment, I need this to be ailment immune. The gloves I have recrafted, again, just with essences, but I've ended up with 3 decent resistances and an open previous to life. That works for me. And then we've got Stygian Vibes with intelligence, life, cold resistance, and a tiny bit of lightning resistance. And then a very bad jewel. I think these might be hidden on my filter, to be honest. So I haven't had any jewels that I've been able to pick up. So I need to probably tweak my filter a little bit. I didn't check the other ring, did I? This is the one I had before. So it's life, mana regen, which is actually quite important because we've got mana now, fire, and chaos resistance. And then the wand is cast speed, spell damage, crit chance to spells, and fire damage to spells. It's a pretty decent one, to be fair. And I think in an SSF playthrough, I'm probably not going to get better than that unless I really commit a lot of time to the playthrough. So the only changes with links is I mentioned last episode that I obviously stupidly was using Mark on Hit. So it's Assassin's Mark, Life Tap, and Arcanist brand now. I can probably take the Life Tap out of this in all honesty because we've got so much mana regen. We don't need that. I picked up an Enlighten very, very early in the playthrough, like in the 4th map. That's finally ticked over to 2, so I've linked that to my Tempest Shield, Determination, and Herald of Ash. And then because we've now gone mana, I am running Clarity to obviously help with the sustain. And then we've got a Vitality and a Defiance banner. So yeah, in terms of mana regen, it's super comfy. I can literally just spam my spell. I'm never going to run out of mana. So I'll just go through the tree because I've obviously changed this because I'm not going life anymore. So I've needed to pick up nodes that help a little bit with mana. I've taken this node here just to help with resistances and just to get a little bit of chance to avoid interruptions from stuns when I'm casting. And a little bit of strength, as I say, always helps, and so does dexterity. We've gone Intuitive Leap here. I've taken Spell Block because I'm running Glancing Blows, so that gives you 12%. And then I also get mana regen per chance to block spell damage, so I'll get like 70% mana regen. 20% increased maximum mana, spell damage per 100 mana. And then we've got this to make Reservation a little bit easier. I could probably drop this now, in all honesty, because I now have my Enlighten, so we could probably remove that. Damage for each held and increase effective held buffs. Doesn't do loads, but it's better than any of the other nodes I can get to. Now I've also taken Infused Flesh, which is 18% damage recouped as life. This is only from hits, but it just makes quite a big difference actually. We've got really good regen, we've got life on block, we've got recoup. So as long as we don't get overwhelmed, it's very easy to stay alive, but the character is certainly not at a point where it can just stand and face tank everything. I think the only other change I've made is I've gone up here to get mana and intelligence and regen purely to take Clarity Reservation to help me be able to fit all the auras in. So the POB will be in the video description. Overall, I'm quite happy with where the build is. It's not something I played before. I'm sure it's not a very efficient way of building this character, and if anyone's played this skill, they're probably laughing at the way I've built the character, but it's working. It's got my 2 voidstones. It will get my Atlas cleared. There's nowhere in a million years it's going to do Maven or Uber Elder in SSF in 24 hours. But where it is with 7 hours left of this project, it's not too bad. So it's definitely not a build I recommend building it like this. But as a random, here's a skill, you've got to use it, get as far as you can, I think I've done okay. So that's about it. We've got the Pinnacle bosses down. We've got a Guardian down. I'll probably go through and maybe try and get a Conqueror down, an Elder Guardian, and then maybe do an Elder. We'll see if we can get the maps to drop. Overall, I'm not liking the skill at all. I really, really dislike it. But Inquisitor is quite fun. You can just get super, super tanky for not a lot of investment. And if I had double the DPS that I had, I think this build would feel much better. Clearing, I think, would still feel a little bit janky. But if I doubled the single target, bosses would feel much more comfy. And I'd feel a bit more confident trading because I don't have to trade for like 2 to 3 minutes. But that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.